Hey guys, welcome to the second episode of Scary Reddit Stories, where I get scary stories from r/true scary stories and Reddit. Quick disclaimer, none of this content is meant to be offensive or stolen, so like, subscribe, and turn notifications on. Enjoy. This story is by u/cosplayray, and it is so long that it takes up the entire episode. So I timelined and tried to write down everything I remembered about these experiences to give me a guide when writing this. It started from when I was very young, and the first instance of this happening was when I was living with my grandmother. Her and I were very close. This will play in later. I was wide awake in bed, unable to sleep, with her to my right. There's no doubt in my mind that she was deeply asleep only a few inches from me. Every television in the house was off, and the only other person in the house was my grandfather asleep in his room. Then very clearly and loudly I hear my grandma call me from the kitchen, almost how you'd be called for dinner. I know it's common to hear your name being called mistakenly, but I did more research on this as a teen, and apparently when you hear your name being called this loud you're supposed to reject it. I did not. Not knowing this, I just huddled closer to my grandmother and kept my eyes locked on the open door. The second instance was around 13 or 14 when my father took me on a family trip to Las Vegas. We visited some part of the Grand Canyon, and while my family was waiting in line for a skywalk bridge we had paid a tour for, I wandered around the edge a good distance away from my family and decided to yell my name into the canyon to hear my echo. When it came back to me it sounded distorted and almost like grandmother had yelled my name back. It might have not been my grandmother exactly, but very similar. Nevertheless, just the fact it was distorted was enough to scare me a little. I don't put much weight into this experience because it might have just been my voice being thrown weird. This next one happened when I was 13 or 14 as well. It's the most terrifying one I've had, and every time I tell this story to people I start to cry or tear up. This is the closest I've ever been to whatever this is, and proves my point that it's mimicking people I care about. I was on a vacation with my family in Key West and had rented a home. I invited my best friend, who we will call Ash, to stay with us. On the third day we had decided to skip out on the boating trip and mooch off the house owner's Netflix all day. On about the 5th episode of what we were watching we decided on a snack refill and bathroom break. We pause the television and I make my way to the kitchen. I believe that Ash had followed me into the kitchen and leaned on the island while I prepared some chips with my back turned to her. I held a full conversation with whatever that thing was and even looked back at her on her phone. I fully had no doubt in my mind that I was talking and looking at Ash on her phone. She even held it in this specific Ash does. I turned my back for a split second to pick up the bowls and suggest we head back to the couch when I see Ash, or the real Ash anyway, walk out of the bathroom, which was a solid 30 feet away. My body immediately went cold, and the first thing I asked her was how she got to the bathroom and in and out without me hearing. She then gave me the weirdest look and told me she's been in there the whole time since we got up. This is where I start freaking out and insisting that I had just been talking with her and even physically saw her. She joked about doppelgangers and how maybe she was gonna die. I quickly suggested we get out of the house and walk around the neighborhood. She then informed me she had gotten her period while she was in the bathroom the same time I was talking to whatever I was talking to. We walked around until my mom called me that she was back in the house. We are still best friends to this day and have been for 11 years, and I asked her about it today before I wrote this. She said she didn't hear me talking with anybody at all. Now at this point you guys must think I'm crazy, but for this next one I have a witness. I felt a little less crazy after it happened with people who freaked out as much as me. Again, I was on vacation near the Great Smoky Mountains, but just a little west in Sevierville, Tennessee. We had our previous reservations cancelled, so we took this little rundown cabin owned by a local woman. Now, we got there late at night, and the moment we all stepped out of the car the first thing we heard was a man's voice saying, "Hey neighbors," coming from a cabin to the left of ours that was higher up on the mountain we were on. We couldn't see the cabin, really just a road that led further up, so we assumed he could see us, but we couldn't see him. Probably some guy on his balcony. My friendly stepdad yelled a hey and we waved up towards the direction it came from. It wouldn't have been weird if this didn't happen every time we stepped out of the cabin or car. My family completely wrote it off as some type of hospitality we were not used to in Miami. Retelling it, my brother and my friends agreed it was weird. I did hear constant footsteps around the cabin at night and some outside my window. It was a raised cabin, probably a story or two off the ground, but I don't give it much thought since wildlife is a thing in the woods. Just something I thought I should mention maybe. The thing that really propelled me into researching what was happening to me was when I was having a photo shoot in the woods behind the cabin and both my brother, sister and I heard something calling my name deeper into the woods. Since I was with my younger siblings I went into full big sister protection mode and almost threw them back down the little slope we had to climb to get into the woods. We were all shitting bricks from how clear it was and how we all pinpointed it was coming from the deeper woods and nowhere near the cabin. This was during the day and we all were so thrown by this we stayed in for the rest of our trip. We all agreed it was a woman's voice and the first thing I asked my mom when we got inside was, did you call Emmy? She had been lounging in her room with my stepdad all day trusting that I could take care of the younger ones just outside the cabin. She saw how freaked out the kids were and we didn't really go out at night for the rest of our trip. I think I reacted this badly to this one mostly because I had kids to take care of and I can tell they were terrified out there. Again, the voice sounded like somebody was looking for me or calling me back somewhere. With no knowledge of what this could be, I had finally decided to look into things when I turned 17. I had no previous knowledge of Wendigos or skinwalkers or anything cryptic, only shitty ghost investigations and Zach Bagans making something out of a scratchy EVP. I'm desperate for answers because at this point I'm constantly thinking about it and driving myself into rabbit holes of information and myths and legends. If you read this far, thank you so much. I know my writing and recounting may not be good, but I was just trying to get everything and all the details in a cohesive place. Please let me know what you gives things and please feel free to ask for more information on something if you think it would aid in you helping me out. Much love to anybody who can help. Ray. Thanks guys for watching. Bye.